Welcome everyone, this is Topdawg Shadic, after modern day debate show. And I guess welcome everyone, this is Topdawg Shadic, working after modern day debate show. Okay, and this is tricky because I got three monitors. Welcome everyone, this is Topdawg Shadic, working after. I forgot to mute the YouTube. Okay. I gotta send a link to everybody to join me on StreamYard. It's in the chat box. Anybody can join me and talk to me live. Let's see, how do I start off? Well, I'm using Face Rig for this avatar. You can get it on Steam if you have a PC, I guess. Yeah, there's a lot of different avatars. Hey, welcome, Speed of Sound. For this avatar.
Hey.
You can get it on Steam. Repeating my voice.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. You have a PC, I guess. Yep, there's a lot of different avatars. Hey, welcome, Speed of Sound.
Hello.
For this avatar.
Oh, hey. Hang on a second. I got to fix my sound.
Got another person here. Hey, Andrew.
Hello.
Okay, I think I'm in now.
You've been in. So, how do I start this? My first time.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey.
You got the link, eh?
Yep. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. I thought I would stop in and check you out, Topdawg.
Yep.
I saw you on Smokey the other night.
Yep. They don't seem like they can grasp understanding of how to learn what's going on in real life right now.
Yeah, they're
science
pretty. Yeah, I mean they deny 90% of science in order to believe. I'm trying to get a mosquito. I got him. In order to believe the crap that they believe, they really have to shut. Well, the thing is, they never actually read the science. They only read the headlines, and they find the headlines that they like and reinterpret everything with that. It kind of drives me nuts.
Yeah, they talk about philosophy a lot.
Yeah, and they don't even know how to do that right. That's all, you know. The Bible is not a philosophy book.
Yep.
I don't think any of us are prepared for philosophy at some points.
Yeah, I was out of it for a long time. I got back into it around probably around 2004. Or no, 2008. I got into Richard Dawkins' site, and I had abandoned philosophy when I was very young. In fact, 1969, I kind of gave it up. I've been around for a while.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I used to tell people that were philosophy majors that they were the bravest people on earth, because philosophy almost killed me when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I almost died of existentialism.
Oh yeah. I've existential crises like a lot of times.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty crazy times.
Yeah.
But I've been into philosophy of the mind quite a bit and spent about a good 12 years on it. And I have opinions about the consciousness.
Oh, yeah. I don't understand consciousness too well, but I can tell you that what I've learned about philosophy so far is troubling.
Yeah.
It's mind bending in a lot of ways.
Well, they keep going around in circles.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they say that we do that.
Yeah.
Or I mean,
Well,
not we, but people that try to understand how the scientific methods and stuff, how what's going on.
yeah, there was somebody in chat on the debate that was saying that a theory is he was getting his interpretation of what a theory is out of the dictionary, and I told him you don't get your philosophy of science out of the dictionary. So,
Dan already said in the video that theory meant something different, and I wrote it in chat multiple times.
yeah.
And that scientific theory meant basically a body of facts, and Dan said more like evidence.
Yeah, something that so far we have not falsified. And if there's a large enough body of evidence behind it, then it's a theory and it's sound. Hypothesis is somewhat less sound. It's throw a hypothesis and then you test it. So
well, that kind of gets into like also how does the science really prove things, I guess, or does it just fail to disprove things, like Karl Popper, for instance?
Yeah, the whole falsifiability thing, science is a little more complex than that, but the Popper thing pretty much wrote the book on, what we consider reasonable. I guess you have to find a way you have to come up with a hypothesis that can be falsified. Otherwise, you're probably doing metaphysics, but not. I hate to use the word. I hate to demean the word metaphysics by using it for the kind of stuff that Christians and idealists do. But I call it naive metaphysics or junior high metaphysics. Real metaphysics has to do with physics, and you're looking basically beyond what we know about physics now, and you're trying to come up with meta theories like multiple world hypothesis or multiple universe hypothesis, that sort of thing.
Right.
And Simos, I didn't see you.
Hello, welcome.
Simos.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I tuned into the debate quite late. But this thing on theories, it drives me nuts. Both mainly because this in the skeptic side is the one that drives me nuts because in physics it's just not like in life it's just not like that. We refer to theory in such a broad spectrum of ways. In the Karl Popper thing, that's not how people use it in real life. Ideally, I know we'd like to think of theories as being somewhat robust, but in general, that's not what really happens, right? The example I like to use is like string theory, which is unfalsifiable currently. Okay, and then the other one is the standard model, which is falsifiable.
Yeah.
And so they've got the labels exactly backwards on that. If we try and take theory as being some kind of definitionally falsifiable kind of model, which is stood the test of time. So it just annoys me. I mean, we call Darwin's theory. Okay, I mean that's the name of it, right? And yet that's shown to be false in the strict sense of the way he proposed it.
Yeah.
So it just drives me mad that question keeps coming up from the theist side, and then keeps getting explained as being a robust kind of model, right? Which is just not true.
It's a problem of a broad problem of language that we use, basically.
Exactly, yeah, Andrew. Yeah. So I just it keeps bugging me from time and time again. Speaking to philosophers on here that just don't understand that in practicality that's the way the words are used, and yeah, they may want to give it some kind of philosophical definition, but that doesn't really help the science.
I don't know why, but that kind of reminds me of the fact that you can have multiple, like you can think of the old problem that Linnaeus and his followers had of trying to come up with universal names for species, basically, and it was a problem of language, basically. I don't know why, but that just comes to mind when I think of that.
Yeah, exactly. And the very notion of science, becoming ever closer to the truth as time goes by, right. as we falsify more and more hypotheses. Says that the idea of calling something a theory is a very problematic thing in its own right if we want to use some kind of strict definition.
Well, they have a set of words that they like to use on us. Evolutionist. They say it's our religion, it's our belief, our faith.
Darwinists.
It's just a theory. I mean, they've got this whole language that they built up.
Yeah.
If you imagine basically all of scientific knowledge as the ground of the entire Earth, okay, and you have a bunch of chickens running around and they're picking shiny stones. I call it chicken picking. That's what creationists and theists do. They only care to pick these shiny rocks on top that look like they're going to make them happy, and they cherry pick out of all the abstracts, like John Maddox. I've downloaded all his papers, looked at all his papers. There's only one paper in the lot that agrees with him, and the rest, of course, all the AIG stuff and Evolution News agrees with him, but nothing else. I mean, none of those papers actually say anything to support what he is claiming.
Yeah, it's again, this is where you would turn to philosophy, isn't it? Just to say, look, your arguments fall into a certain pattern of this God of the gaps. Your main argument seems to be, well, I don't understand it, and you don't understand it, so therefore, God, and of course it's
of course, because they'll switch that around and say you're assuming that it's a natural explanation, not a supernatural one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as if we're making some metaphysical point rather than a scientific point.
Then they also say that we have to say that, or find out, or somehow say that, or not say, but get rid of their God in every way in science or something before they go on and believe any science almost.
Well, you gotta take religion out of science.
No, I mean in their mind, how for themselves.
Okay.
I mean, but they won't understand, so it's weird. It's like presupposition. They already believe that God exists, so then they won't understand how not to exist. Something like that.
Yeah, and they can't have an argument without they attack your argument for evolution in terms of young Earth creationism, and it's almost like they can't see beyond that horizon. It's really weird. Like you'll start talking about something that definitely had to take 1 billion years, to change, and they will attack it based on 6,000 years. It's I can't quite figure out how to express what they do, but they look at what you're arguing through a lens of 6,000 years, and it's just really bizarre. They don't make any sense.
It's a weird form of straw man, basically.
Yeah, it's very odd. They try to fit most of their worldview around what you're saying, and then they try to attack your argument based on their worldview. And of course, that is not our premise. That's not what we're accepting. So,
well, I like to think of it like you have if we have certain presuppositions, assumptions, whatever you want to call them, you're not going to say ghosts exist unless you find evidence beforehand that ghosts exist. The only way you would say that a ghost exists, for instance, if you already believe that a ghost exists. I think that's why
Mm.
it doesn't really apply to science, and it shouldn't be
Yeah.
part of science.
I saw a ghost. My ex-wife, when we were married, her father died pretty young, and it was the couple nights after the funeral. I saw him walk into the room, and it was just very, very clear. But I was dreaming. But it was an extremely vivid dream. And if I had believed in ghosts, I would have woke up and I would have swore that I actually saw it, because it was, one of those vivid hallucination dreams, of which I've had many. And you change it in your mind, and then when you remember it and you remember it, and then you start telling the story, it becomes as real as any other memory you have. And that's pretty much what all the ghost stuff is all about.
Well, that gets into the second part of it, which is, of course, that if you whether or not you don't or do believe in that, you're going to have to repeat it again. And of course, I can't repeat what you saw.
Yeah.
Like an example, for instance.
Yeah. I mean, if you have, like if I were standing in a room, I guess, with my my friends and my kids, and a ghost walked in and communicated with us and all that stuff, it would definitely change my worldview, as would real proof of NDEs. Like if they really put like a note on top of a counter and a person had a near-death experience and they actually knew exactly what the note said, and the note happened to be complex enough that they could never have known, I would still be suspicious, but it would start to really change my worldview. I mean, I'd have to really reorganize shit. If I saw a ghost, or if Jesus came down and had a talk with me, I definitely have to reorganize my worldview a little bit.
Or would you be more likely that you're having mental things happen only in your mind?
Yeah, but I've had...
something.
Oh my God, what is that? Hang on a second, I got something going on.
Yeah, with the NDEs, I've died several times in my life, very close to dying several times in my life. Fortunately, I never actually done it, and I would just like one Christian to find one of the notes that I left on the on the cupboards above the operating table.
Yeah,
but they never find it. They never find it. Let me just say that.
Well, I've had I'm a long time drug addict, alcoholic, in recovery now for 13 years. And I've taken a lot of really strange drugs, like overdosed on weird antidepressants and psychotropic drugs. And I've had a whole lot of drug experience. I've had times when I almost died. I have been through a whole lot. And I know I've had hallucinations about as powerful as any schizophrenic could have them. And you can tell the difference between a hallucination and eidetic reality. There's definitely a difference. The whole time you're hallucinating, like I would be having conversations with my ex-wife, and then I'd realize she wasn't there. But then when I came away from that and sobered up the next day, I could tell that it was a hallucination. I knew the difference. Because hallucinations can never be completely eidetic. There's no way that your mind can do that.
Yeah, I would agree. Some of the drugs I've had have given me hallucinations, but and at the time I could swear they were real. And I would, when you wake up the next day, you think, wow, that definitely happened. Because look, there's a window there. And then you look over it and it's not a window at all. It's a picture of a landscape. You think, oh, that's why I saw a landscape through a window. Because it was a picture,
I do like a lot of things almost every day, and almost seems like when I wake up the next day, it's like, was it a dream? I'm gonna like do some amazing things to myself. That it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's pretty weird that it actually happens. I mean, that I actually did that thing that I thought I dreamed, or I mean, didn't actually think it was a dream, but it possibly could have been a dream or something because it was so amazing. But it was.
I have these things called, I think they're called brain crashes. They're audio hallucinations as you're falling asleep. And those things are vivid as hell. I mean, they bring me right out of bed. I hear my son calling downstairs to me. I have a son that lives on the third floor. and I hear his voice, and it wakes me up, and I like text him and say, "What do you want?" And he's like, I didn't say anything." But those are weird. It's weird. Audio hallucinations are much more eidetic than visual, when you have hallucinations. And that's why schizophrenics hear things. Like when I did I took massive overdoses of this antidepressant, and I would hear people talking in the speakers when all it was a hiss, right? The amplifier was on and it was hissing, and I would hear conversations in the speakers, and those were pretty real. Yeah. But I've never had eidetic visual.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean there, but I think the brain tends to fill in sound much more completely. Yeah. It makes up stuff itself, whereas with visuals, those visuals are triggered when the brain fills in, like when you're on acid or something. That's the brain filling in stuff that you're not actually seeing.
Yeah.
The colors become more vivid, or you start seeing monsters coming out the wall. Well, the monsters aren't really there. It's just the brain filling in that blank spot you have in your vision, with some rayed up shit. And it does that so much more easily with sound than it does with vision.
One time, me and my friend were well ripped on Owsley acid back in the 70s, and my mom had this linoleum floor that was kind of worn out. All the tiles, they were tiles, so they were worn out in a pattern. And we were listening to Pink Floyd, and all of a sudden, these crabs kind of like got up out of the floor and started marching in tune to Pink Floyd. And then I told my friend about it, and he was able to reproduce the hallucination by thinking about it. I'm pretty sure he saw a different species of crab than I did, but we were able to bring them up and shut them off, and we got really good at that. I did LSD about 200 times back in the day.
Yeah, good. It's a great drug in that way, I suppose.
Well, if you know what's going on and you don't have some spiritual crazy ass belief, you really learn how to manipulate the drug, and you can use it to do a lot of exploration.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the first few times I didn't really get it, but after that, we used to have a group of friends, and we'd draw stuff or write stuff out. You know what I mean? You want to try and keep. This is in the days before, because I'm old as well. This is in the days before video phones and recording phones and shit. Yeah. And we'd write stuff down, and one of us was an artist, and he'd draw cartoons of what was going on. And I used to write music, so I'd just write lyrics and stuff and poems. And another guy would do whatever else. And we'd have these really surreal moments where we'd all come together and try and describe the same thing in a different way, and then later on, after the trip, like we'd wake up the next day or whatever, and look at the paper that we'd done and compare notes. And it was amazing how you could tell we'd seen or thought of the same things.
Yeah.
Right. But in completely different ways, and just expressed it in a different way,
Yeah.
But you could tell we were still talking about the same thing, or he was drawing the same thing.
By the way, kids, for any kids here, don't do drugs.
Yeah. I never have. I'm 32, almost 33.
Okay.
Yeah, and don't do acid unless you're with people you know.
Well, unless you know something about LSD before you do it. Me and my friend, when we were in 7th grade, we run into this show on TV about LSD, and then we run into a Newsweek article on it. So we studied it for that was from the time we were 13 to the time we were 19. So by the time we actually did it at 19, we lived in northern Minnesota, so it didn't arrive up there until we were 19. Okay. We knew a lot about it. So we had a real clear understanding of what was going to happen to us. And we'd read all the Huxley books and, Doors of Perception and all that. Wow. And so it was a very good experience for us because we were able to leverage what we knew about the drug. And of course we were we were atheists since we were like 8 years old. So we never had any weird inclination like this Kafai guy that's over on Smokey's channel right now to believe in all this spirit mind bullshit. We realize it's a drug, it's changing our perception, and this is what we're going to do with it, Yeah. And if we see a monster, we're just going to say, "You're not there, go away."
I was 25 and a half when I became an atheist or a rational human being more.
You became rational when you're sobered up.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a God belief, but I certainly remember the day that someone said to me, I grew up in Canada a bit, and every day you used to have to sing the Canadian national anthem. And I remember singing these words and thinking, what is this God they keep referring to? This is very fucking strange, So I went questioned the teacher.
Remember,
yeah, that was a good idea because she had no idea what I was trying to ask.
I remember when I was younger that you know those Bible children books that they often have at the dollar store or whatnot, and I used to read those. But as soon as I started reading like science books and nonfiction books and just anything about space, dinosaurs, things like that, like it just flew out of my mind. I didn't even think about it anymore.
Yeah. For me, it was all about dinosaurs, I think. An all about book that I got when I was like 6, 7 years old. My dad used to buy me these books, science books. And I asked a Presbyterian minister how he explained if the earth was, world was created in 6 days, how he accounted for dinosaurs and, fossils that are millions of years old. It was really cool. He looked like Ichabod Crane, and he was like this old Presbyterian minister in Mount Iron, Minnesota. He sat me down on a step, put his arm around me, and said, "Son, let me tell you what a metaphor is." And he explained what a metaphor it was to me. And so he was an old Earth creationist, basically, that he believed God created the universe to, and then life developed. So it was pretty cool. It was a good experience. I thank that man. His name was Reverend Peterson. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's weird how we develop our beliefs because, like, for years, I mean, the day I've thought about that, I was, in contemplation on the way home from school. I must have been 7 or 8, and remember walking back, and I had this like out of body experience when I got back home, right? And the only way I knew that really was that, it was light when I started thinking, and then I looked up and it was dark. And that I didn't notice it going dark because I was so deep in thought.
Yeah.
And I went inside, and my mum, bless her, she was a Christian, and I said, "Oh, mum, I was really excited. I've worked out God doesn't exist," and I could see the look of disappointment on her face, and but bless her, she said, "Why?" Which is like the most infuriating question for a kid ever, right?
Yeah.
But, of course, I didn't think, and I just had this deep thought about it. So I said, it's just not needed. It's just not needed. You don't need to have this idea. And which, in hindsight, was exactly the reason, a good reason, as far as I'm concerned, for being an atheist, right? So, I'd always just got that and just gone, yeah, cool, I'm an atheist. And it wasn't, again, until I got into philosophy that I realized, well, maybe it's not such a great, I mean, you don't need a strong reason, so it's still a reason to be an atheist, but it's not as convincing as I thought it was. And actually, that was my faith statement right back then. At 7 years old, I made a faith statement to be an atheist, and I've been one ever since, right? Yeah. So, I have a lot of sympathy, really, when a Christian says to me, or a religious person says to me, well, I believe in God on faith, that's it. Then I have a lot of sympathy for that answer, and that's when I back off and I say, okay, we don't need to talk about this anymore. You know what I mean? You've stated it's a faith-based position, and therefore you're just going to believe it regardless of anything which I say, any kind of deductive argument or any kind of reason that I may bring.
Well, that gets. Oh, sorry.
As long as it doesn't bother anything, or they don't try to rewrite science, I don't have a problem with it. You don't have to you don't have to have a metaphysical position at all. You can live on, in fact, Buddhism is about not having any belief at all. It's having no doctrine, no belief.
Some Buddhism. I mean, not all
Buddhism. Not the Hollywood Buddhists. The westernized version of Buddhism is so stupid.
Oh, I don't
Anyway.
know. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not a big fan, and in hindsight, I was in my midlife. I was like, oh yeah, this Buddhism, this is really cool. You know, it's our own desires that lead us to destruction. And then I just thought, well, actually, without desires, you know, do we better ourselves? What is the point of getting up in the morning if you don't have desires? I mean, really, you know,
You
it's
don't need science to have desires, or what I mean. You don't have to just go with science. People, the creationists, or I mean Christians, or whoever, always think that science is all we have, or something that we go to. Do we have our own upbringing and stuff before we were, or whatever in life? So it's not really a good argument for from their side.
Isn't there that statement that the more you know, the less you know, the more confident that you know it?
Yeah.
And the more you know it, then the less confident you are that you know it.
Yeah, I can't remember who the actual quote comes from, but it's like one of the problems of the world is the wise are full of doubt, and the fools are the fools are very confident, or something like that.
That's right.
You know, I can't remember who that was, but again, I don't. I as I get older now, into my sort of later years, as it were, I become less and less confident about the shit that I used to be absolutely adamant about when I was younger. You know, so
I mean, that's in some sense a good thing.
Yeah, in some sense, but I wish it wasn't so. You know, I really do. I'd like to think that knowledge that I'd gained over the years was giving me at least some epistemic justification, which was stronger as I went on. But no, in fact, it's the longer I go on, the more my philosophical beliefs become vaguer and vaguer. You know, and like you were saying with existentialism, I've never understood it. I just can't understand it.
I haven't either.
By some of the best philosophers in our community, right? And for hours on end, they've tried to get this point into my head. And it just doesn't go there. I just can't understand what it means.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
I like to say that I have learned more about evolution and understood it better in the last 2 months than I probably have in the last 2 years.
Cool. That's good. I got that book today, by the way, that Evolution in Minutes. And yeah.
It's a really small book, isn't it?
It is a small book, yeah. Yeah, it's got a few nuggets in it, but you're gonna like Futoyma much better. So
yeah,
enjoy that. Oh, it's it'll get you a really good start. The thing is, Dr. Jensen, that's the only book he's read, I think. Nathaniel Jensen. So
so the old one book ploy.
So is it Simos? Is that your name?
Simos, yeah. That's the name I've been under for. I've been in the community for, I don't know, maybe I can't even remember when I started in YouTube.
You ever been on Richard Dawkins' forum or Rational Skepticism?
Rational Skeptic, I think I've chatted with, but I'm not. I certainly haven't chatted with Richard Dawkins.
Well, Dawkins shut down the forum. He came on the forum a few times, but very little. But he got mad at us because we were we were cowboys. So he shut down the forum. So a bunch of guys started Rational Skepticism, and I have 32,000 posts over there, I think.
Oh, wow.
And I had about 10,000 on Richard Dawkins at speed of sound. So if you want to, if you go over to philosophy, the philosophy section, I usually had a lot to say about consciousness. And when I first started out, I was really stupid. I didn't know shit about philosophy of the mind or philosophy, but I educated myself along the way. So it was a pretty cool transformation.
Okay, that's cool. If you can stick it in the side chat, in the private chat, or in either chat, really, that'd be great. Then I'll check it out. I kind of come from the G+ community, the old Google+ community.
Okay.
I don't know who might you know in that circle. I won't go through names and stuff because it's just name dropping, and I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
It's 34 or through almost 35 minutes we've been doing this. So let's do. And it's supposed to be after the show. We're supposed to be talking about the show. I thought.
Talking about the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Cell
I-
Cordova.
sorry.
I don't know if you guys. I have a YouTube site, Speed of Sound of Gravity, and Cell Cordova and I have talked quite a bit over there, and I've corrected Cell on some of the stuff he used in the debate tonight. His bit about fitness, and we went through it, but apparently it didn't stick. We had a show about that, and Cell, I downloaded all his papers, and I looked them over. I looked up Felsenstein and Lewontin and all of them, and Cell just totally went over his head apparently, because none of it stuck. And then he brings up Kondrashov, which is Alexei Kondrashov, who said, who wrote a paper with the title, "It's a Wonder We Aren't Dead 100 Times Over." Have you seen that one on Standing for Truth channel?
No.
Anyway, Kondrashov wrote a book called The Crumbling Genome, and I have the book. And Kondrashov's point is about human, basically what we're doing in terms of we're not under a lot of natural selection pressure right now. And that's why he was Kondrashov is basically musing that our genome may be crumbling, and there are certain medical problems that are going to pop up, mostly because of what humans are, how many of us there are, and all that stuff. So,
yeah, it always amazes me how they seem to come up with these definite statements when, the human genome is so massive.
I know.
It's like, how could you even pull that out? How could you extract that from such a large volume of potential information?
Yeah,
it's crumbling. You know what I mean? Although, obviously there are issues. You know what I mean, with issues in terms of the what's the word I'm looking for? The diversity of the human species is not exactly the widest it could be. Right.
Well, like the cancer rates, excuse
me.
Yeah. I looked them up. Cancer rates peaked in 1990, and they've been going down ever since. And that was right around the time that we put in anti-pollution control devices on automobiles, and everybody started to quit smoking. And prostate cancers really dropped. And then autism, they claim, is going up. Well, autism is only going up among reasonably wealthy white people.
Right.
So it's diagnosis.
Or too.
Yeah, that one always struck me is they just have a what's the word I'm looking for? A wider definition of what it is, and a better ways of trying to decide whether people have got it or not.
Yeah, they've really increased the diagnosis to where they're calling parents and quizzing them about their 3-year-olds whether or not they can talk, and they're coming up with a lot higher rates. So it's tripled because the diagnosis got better.
It was popular to say when I was younger, anyway. It was popular to say that everybody is on the spectrum.
Right.
Yeah, it's a kind of a human condition, really.
Yeah, being on the spectrum is kind of a badge of honor these days.
Yeah, exactly. So,
my mom said I was on some kind of a spectrum.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I was in the 80s. I did have a ZX81. Is it called a Spectrum? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But God dear, I was fucking computing, right? That's another thing. Anyway, let's get back to the debate, because you're right, Topdawg. We should at least try and chat about it a bit. I haven't come across this Sal personally myself. He reminded me, some of the arguments he was putting forward reminded me of a guy called Edgar, who was Mr. Intelligent Design, who basically used the same tactic that I've seen just about all of the creationists do, which is try and put as much confusion into the subject as possible in order to mask some kind of inadequacies which they conceive that evolution may have. In other words, science doesn't have all the answers to all the questions, therefore we're never going to get them. and therefore, if we're never going to get them, then we must look for some kind of supernatural explanation. And that seems to me that the kind of process by which these arguments go forward.
If you think about the people that before science was done, the people that didn't know about a lot of this, I mean, everything almost. So they're just the same way still with the people that deny science, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's going to be, somewhat. What am I looking for? I mean, it's going to be somewhat repetitious. The what am I? I'm not saying this in a very clear way, but never. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's getting late for me, guys, so I gotta head out. But thanks for the chat.
Okay, Andrew. Tomorrow, I will get you the book, and we can do the thing with Immutable tomorrow.
Okay.
Answer your questions. Okay.
I put my link in the side chat if you want to check it out. I do other things besides these kind of talks, but
in private. Okay, I put my channel up there too.
Yeah, I just subbed to it, so thanks, Pete. That would be great.
Okay.
Yep.
And nice to meet you, Andrew, as well.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right, guys.
I'll go over and give you a sub.
Cheers, bud. It's always useful.
Yep.
Now I'm going to test out to see how much my sound coming through, if it's too loud or not.
Run that in too,
From,
we'll just
Sounds
leave
good
it.
to me. Oh, I see. Yeah, go ahead.
This is part 2 of
Does it need to be turned
debate
up?
about genetic entropy and Creationist.
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe 20%.
This debate are available at the website www.
Yeah, that's good there. Right there is good.
Okay.
Even though the website is still being built out, the website does have further material
So,
about the issues laid
Let's
out
see
in
what
this debate,
cell
and more
says
material will be added periodically. To recap a
about
bit,
this stuff.
the primary focus of tonight's debate is about the hypothesis of genetic entropy and secondarily about creationism. The genetic entropy hypothesis was put forward by retired Cornell research professor John Sanford, who is also presently my employer. The primary claim of Dr. Sanford's book is that the human genome is slowly deteriorating with each generation. Dr. Sanford was a Cornell research professor during much of his 45-year career as an applied geneticist.
Okay,
Besides the fraction of all
have a stop there so I can comment on that. We don't want to play too much without commenting, of course.
You,
That always amazes me how they just don't get natural selection. Right? Entropy, yeah, fair enough. There's obviously going to be deleterious mutations. But the point being of evolution surely is that those will die out over time because they're deleterious.
Right.
Whereas the ones designed for fitness are going to survive and reproduce more often. I mean, that's such a basic and fundamental part of the idea of evolution. It just beggars belief that professors can't understand it. Right? It's like the argument is kind of like they're trying to make the same argument in a more sophisticated way, that if it's all just random, what's it all for? Nihilism, right? Yeah. It just beggars belief that they still, after all this time, don't understand that evolution is not a random process. But maybe Jerry Fordor's got something to do with that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's they completely miss the point on purifying selection. They read a little bit of Camara's work on basically neutral mutations, where that don't really have an effect, and then they reasoned, okay, well, neutral mutations, they would build up over time. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. They do build up over time, but then as soon as they become a problem, there's a purifying selection, and that organism does not reproduce. And then the other thing that happens with neutral mutations, they drift out of a population. I mean, with the population size that we have, the drift will take a little longer, but it certainly isn't going to fix in the population, not for billions and billions of years. So they're using real simple undergraduate first year population genetics models, and they just cannot let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the same argument that Behe tried to make, right?
Yeah.
Just another, well, there you go. It's so complex that it must be designed. It's like, well, no, the designing process is a filter process. It's not a design process. Let's just get the English right, and then we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Well, they have this
a semantic argument for a scientific problem. Never going to be the solution. Never.
Well, if they only tried to actually look at what YouTube people have made it easy to understand all this stuff, like I'm going to show here. This is misconceptions about evolution. So here's
Sometimes the way we use words in conversation is different from the way scientists use them in a formal setting, which is fine, but it can cause confusion when you're trying to talk about science. Evolution as a subject is especially vulnerable to these kinds of misunderstandings. Like, you might have heard someone dismiss evolution as only a theory, but in science there's nothing only about theories. So here are the most common misconceptions about evolution and why they are so wrong. You're probably familiar with the basics of evolution. It's a change in the genetic makeup of a population of organisms. Different organisms have different genetic mutations, which create the variation that leads to evolution. If an organism dies without leaving offspring, its genetic material is gone from the population, so the gene pool has changed. If another organism has lots of offspring, its genes are overrepresented in the next generation, which is also a change in the gene pool. Natural selection can cause those kinds of changes, but so can other factors, including random chance. One of the most common misconceptions about evolution is that it is, quote, just a theory. And it's true, evolution is a theory, but in science, the word theory means a lot more than it does in everyday conversation. Often when I say that I've got a theory, it means that I've got a hunch or I've got a guess. But when scientists talk about theories, that's not what they mean. In science, a hypothesis is a prediction of what might happen based on available evidence, and a theory is a whole collection of hypotheses. Theories fit all the facts. They're a sort of framework for thought, and you use them to make new predictions. A strong scientific theory can expand to fit new evidence. It can accommodate things that aren't necessarily even known yet. For example, Darwin knew practically nothing about genetics. He understood that variation among individual organisms could be inherited, but he didn't know how. Even so, as knowledge of genetics grew in the late 19th and 20th centuries, that knowledge slotted neatly into our understanding of evolution. So yes, evolution is a theory. It's a rigorous framework of testable predictions that accounts for all known evidence and can account for more evidence that we don't even have yet.
So I guess we don't need to watch the whole video. If you really want to, or if somebody wants to watch the rest of it, I'll send a link. I'm saying I'll put the link in the chat.
It basically goes over what we've just been discussing. Again, one of my bugbears is that physics is different from other sciences in this way, that they're not so rigid about these uses of hypothesis and theory, mainly because it's just semantics, right? We understand that some ideas are stronger than others because they have more evidence, and some ideas are stronger because they are falsifiable, and science works in this process of weeding out things that are false, not finding things that are true. And that difference there is really what we try to express by using the words hypothesis and theory, right? And some are stronger than others because they've been falsified or have stood many tests of falsification and found not to be false so far, right? And that process is what we mean by theory. So it's a little wishy-washy to try and put this over to lay people as some defined process by which something moves from a hypothesis to a theory to a law, like in physics. It's just the boundaries are just very wishy-washy. So I don't. That's why I don't like explaining to people or saying things like that I'm that confident that a theory is truer than a hypothesis, Well, it depends on the theory. You have to take each individual one separately. And again, my go-to is a string theory, which is currently unfalsifiable and would really classify as a hypothesis. And standard model, which currently is a theory and not a hypothesis, right? If we want to use the strict definitions. So it's kind of, I just find it not very useful to keep banging that point out all the time to people who are trying to use God as a theory, and we should attack that rather than saying, oh look, our theories are so definite. Well, they can do the same thing with the God hypothesis, inverted commas, God theory, if they want to use that kind of language. And then we've just like hoisted ourselves on our own petard by saying, well, because you use the word theory, it must mean something more definite than a hypothesis. And it may be a general rule, but it's certainly nothing specific. So
I don't think your average scientist gives a damn about philosophy of science.
I don't know. Maybe they do.
Well, methodology and stuff, and being careful. But I mean, all of this kind of deep digging into philosophy of science, they could care less. They're too busy for that.
Yeah, again, it depends what you mean by it. I mean, this is one of my things. I mean, do scientists use logic? Well, hell yeah. Is logic part of philosophy? Yeah, probably. Is science part of philosophy? Well, probably. We used to call it natural philosophy back in the day, right? Again, this is another thing which I try not to deny. Religion is the birthplace of these ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem saying that, right? A lot of people just react against it straight away and go, oh, well, you can't, what do you mean religion is the birth? Well, yeah, the Christian religion has given us the scientific method that we know in the West. Right?
Yeah.
That's where it came from, right? People, Bacon and whoever else, lots of other people have come up with this method by which we've then expunged God's existence, right? To as much as we can, all right?
Yeah.
We've realized that you can't make it falsifiable. The proposition or the hypothesis are falsifiable, and thereby there's never going to be any absolute proof for it. We're never going to find the one thing that shows that all gods are false, right?
Yeah.
And that's a real problem in philosophy. I mean, it still doesn't mean I'm not an atheist, because by definition of atheism and knowledge is not such that I have to be certain. So I don't, as an atheist, I say there are no gods like that, but that's a belief statement. It's not a statement of fact in the same way that I say, the earth goes around the sun. Anyway, just a couple of things which get on my makes me angry when I talk to other people about some of these subjects. That I don't think we need to give up half of the stuff that a lot of atheists are determined to try and say, well, we can't say that its theories are this thing that we're not sure of.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. we can say we hold theories by faith. There's no problem. We just mean a different thing to blind faith or the faith that some religious people mean. That's it.
Well, faith and belief are pretty much how your brain works. I mean, if you had no faith in that, we have words for them, but it refers to a whole lot of stuff that goes on inside your brain. That's how we get out of bed in the morning. We have faith that when we step on the floor, we're not going to fall into the abyss.
Well, I mean, I think we've got a large amount of inductive evidence that that's going to be the case.
Yeah,
so,
well,
faith might not be exactly the right word there, but at bottom, as a philosophy person, I think at bottom we're going to bottom out on beliefs which we have no way of justifying in any sense, and therefore, is faith not the correct word if we can't justify a belief that we hold to be true?
Yeah. Smokey and I are going to be doing a show, hopefully within a week, where we talk about my grounding of naturalism and realism, and it might be interesting.
Yeah,
Because
well, send me
I think
an
I
invite.
have it figured out, but I haven't really tried to put it into words with a guy who is so far away from what I believe as he is.
Mm-hmm.
So him and I get along really well, but boy, does he have some, really ideas that are really foreign and strange to me. He is just such he's a very interesting believer. He reminds me of a really hardcore Jew, Jewish belief,
Right.
where he really digs into the scripture and into the whole thing. It's interesting.
Ultimately flexible, those old texts, as far as I'm concerned. But naturalism is a real tricky one. It seems to me, I've heard so many people say that it's false. It isn't falsifiable, and therefore it isn't justified to be a rationally justified belief.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Anyway, listen to it. When I get into it with Smokey, I'm hoping I really push back against people that say things like that. That that we have, it's not rational because we can't be certain and stuff. But anyway, I'll get into it.
No. I didn't say certain.
Yeah.
I just said that there's justification is lacking.
I have good justification for it, I think. So
yeah, I'd like to think of myself as a naturalist, right?
Yeah.
But I could only go as far as methodological naturalism rather than philosophical naturalism.
I'm a hard naturalist and a hard atheist.
I'm a hard atheist, but a soft naturalist, I guess. But I've been convinced that way by philosophers who have given me very good arguments as to why.
They're going to be the first ones up against the wall after the revolution. So
that's funny. Okay. Anyway, back to the subject. If you wouldn't mind sending me a link for that, I'd really appreciate it. That would be cool.
For the show.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be
you should email me at speedofsoundofgravity@gmail. It's the same as my handle, but you got to put of gravity because I had to add that because have you ever heard of a band called A3 or a singer called John Prine?
I haven't, no.
Okay, he has a song called Speed of Sound, which I'm named after. That's where I took my name.
Okay.
So I had to add of gravity, and I just pulled that out of my ass in about 5 minutes. But anyway, at Gmail, reach out to me and I will make sure you get links and probably have you onto some of our hangouts. So
yeah, that would be cool.
Both of you guys.
Okay, moving on with this then.
Moving on.
Because we can get sidetracked into many discussions here, I'm sure.
For hours, and it is late here. I usually get up at about 3-4 a.m. So.
So, how do you think Sal did? I mean, are his arguments just ridiculous on face, or is he just spewing what he thinks to be good arguments because other academics have also backed them up, which I find a little more credible, by the way.
I wrote in the chat while it was going on a few things about good things almost sometimes, but one on how he thinks. I mean, and I can't remember any of them though.
Yeah, I've gotten into his arguments, and they're really weak. And this one on fitness, basically, he wants to redefine fitness to mean highly engineered. Like stronger, faster, better people. Better cheetahs, whatever. Cheetahs that go 90 miles an hour instead of only 70 or something. And he wants to redefine that, and in redefining it, he's trying to save genetic entropy. So that argument is shot in the ass. And he works for John Sanford, so he has to find support for that. Yeah. He also has to believe in creationism. Mm-hmm. It's very important to his life right now. Yeah. So he keeps finding and what Sal does, he'll dig really deep into like topoisomerases and things like that, and he'll dig real deep into a point, and then he comes up with something, but ultimately they fail. And Daniel Stern Cardinal, Dr. Dan, I call him, he shoots them down every time. And so just keeps, gets up again and dead man walking. He just keeps coming back at him. And he's just not getting it. Like he came up with this whole thing against Fisher-Wright theorem, and we shot that down, and yet he's still going to use it. He's still going to insist that the Fisher-Wright theorem is central to the dogma of evolution. Well, it's not. It was the beginning of population genetics, and the Fisher-Wright theorem that he's talking about is a very, very small part of Fisher-Wright's work, Fisher and Wright. So anyway, we could listen to a little bit of his intro and maybe go through some specifics, but I study cell. So, and him and I are friends, and we talk. And I actually, I'm going to a Bible study with him tomorrow online.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so play the video, you say?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Genetically engineered organisms were created through his inventions, which helped feed starving billions. His inventions are in the collection of the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. Dr. Sanford was an atheist, but at age 39 became a Christian, and by age 49,
Yeah,
he became
bullshit.
His knowledge of applied genetics contributed to his present belief in creationism and his rejection of evolutionary theory. Professor Sanford is among a growing number of scholars who are creationists, but who attain prestigious scientific credentials. For example, Professor of Molecular Biology Change Tan. He's an Ivy League PhD and postdoc from Harvard, and I'm going to be working with her, so I'm excited about that. Rob Stadler is an accomplished biomedical engineer and scientist whose medical devices have been implanted in millions of patients. Pictured here are a couple of first-rate books by the individuals just mentioned. In 2017, Emeritus Professor of Mathematics Bill Basner, along with John Sanford, published in the Journal of Mathematical Biology a corrected version of Fisher's fundamental theorem of natural selection. The theorem they proved is stated right there at the bottom. This is a fragment of the proof of that theorem. Their article on the theorem set a record for the number of downloads of any article in the Journal of Mathematical Biology.
Okay, did you pause for a second?
Given that it would.
Okay, this Basner Sanford article, they went through and they did some clever math, and they got a lot of downloads, and Cell is just going on and on about Sanford, what everybody invented and how great they are. But this work right here, Dr. Dan shot it all to hell because it is shoddy work, and I think they use a beneficial mutation rate that's ridiculously small. They use a program that they wrote, which is suspect. There's people have tore this down. So I mean, as impressive as it looks, it's poop. You can go ahead, but you might want to fast forward through his. Well, I don't know. We can listen to it, I guess. Go ahead.
About this part.
Now, let's suppose we have perfect selection and it eliminates 20% of the population that are mutants. And I'll illustrate that by invoking the Terminator. And he's going to say, "Hasta la vista." And he's going to eliminate one of the mutants. And "Sayonara, muchacho." And he's going to eliminate the other mutant.
Tries to make comedy.
Yep. And what remains are the survivors are
free would be more
of
interesting.
mutations, and they are become parents of the next generation. So that's one scenario. What if we have a scenario where all the offspring have new mutations?
It's good
They
to have
some
fun when you're making
birth defect that their parents didn't have.
showing your argument.
May not be noticeable,
yeah,
outwardly, but it is a slight
accurate.
defect
That's
in their
more
genome.
the point
So
supposed to be.
what will happen in this scenario? Well, we certainly can't. Perfect selection would wipe out everyone, and that
He's
wouldn't
saying
be
that
good either.
we're supposed to kill.
So what is the recourse?
The
The
ones
recourse is
what
have
we don't want.
perfect selection where
it
we
says
just,
they'll all die.
but the remaining still have some.
When
slight
does anything
defects.
have that much mutation of 100%?
Species survives.
When it goes extinct.
Thicker.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
So this is a
that makes
problem.
sense.
This
I
is
meant,
not
like, he was showing, like, all at
creationist
once.
theory. This is something that is recognized in evolutionary
That's what I was trying to say.
biology.
Because he was
As
using a
illustrated
Terminator,
by
so that
this
means there was like a
observation by Dan Grauer
person
in
doing it or something.
2016.
Or
He
people.
said the genome of each human newborn carries 56 to 103 point mutations that are not found in either of the two parental genomes. If 80% of the genome is functional as trumpeted by ENCODE Project Consortium 2012, then 45 to 82 deleterious mutations arise per generation. And he observed the consequence of this in his talk in 2013. 3 problems. If the human genome is indeed devoid of junk DNA, as implied by the ENCODE project, then a long, undirected evolutionary process cannot explain the human genome. If, on the other hand, organisms are designed, then all DNA, or as much as possible, is expected to exhibit function. If ENCODE is right, then evolution is wrong. We'll talk a little bit more in this debate about the ENCODE Project Consortium. It was so far a $500 million project by the National Institutes of Health. So let me illustrate the problem again. Assuming we have, let's say, I'll just pick the number.
Well, I think I remembered one of the things I said during, I wrote in the chat during the video. It was about Sal saying that he wants to stop or have people stop talking about junk DNA and stuff. Wants people, all the scientists, to not consider it junk DNA. And when I think that we already do that, and then he keeps on acting like they keep saying it or something.
Yeah, he knows better than he knows better than this ENCODE project. ENCODE no longer uses the word functional. They found traces where there was transcription in areas that represented about 80% of the DNA, but they were very small areas. Some of these things, like they would find a section of like 100 nucleotides, and then there would be a hit there. But if you look at those 100 nucleotides, only about 6 of them are actually conserved, if any of them are. And they got all kinds of hits, and they came up with, but that isn't what ENCODE is trying to do. They're not trying to work in evolution. They're trying to work in medicine, and they're trying to find, like, as we like, we're born with a certain genome, and then every time a cell divides, we accumulate more mutations until you end up an old man like myself. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to find out what parts of the genome have these small effects that end up becoming bigger effects when you're older, when you're in your 70s and whatever, so they can do something about medicine. I wrote to the ENCODE project, and they told me they no longer use the word functional for that reason. But Cell won't give it up, and these assholes will not give it up. Do you mind swearing on your channel, by the way?
I don't like it, but I can't stop it.
Okay, I can try to tone it. It's my first language was swear like a sailor, so sorry.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, northern Minnesota, it's kind of like swearing was sort of like what we did, and we didn't know any better.
I'm watching the Game Grumps on YouTube, and they, like, every second they say something, but in the stuff that they don't cuss in, for the most part, it's pretty funny and enjoyable.
Yeah.
There's some things that cussing, I mean, it didn't have to cuss, but in their cussing, it's worked out sometimes. Whatever. It's confusing. It'd be there. Good jokes and stuff. But name calling is not particularly good for the other side. Doesn't like that, so they're not going to listen to you. So that's one of the problems. Why?
Yeah, it gets frustrated. I have this thing called Saturday Night at the Atheist, where we come on, and what we do is we vent as much as we possibly can, because if we don't, our brains will explode. Because we sit and work on this stuff all week long, and after a while, the creationists, you just gotta vent. I mean, you've got to call them names after a while. It's almost impossible not to. But I have, like,
you gotta, like, give it personally more. So
yeah.
Get problem there. So then they can make a video about how the person is, like, they call them idiot or moron for cussing and stuff, and don't think that they're intelligent or something because of that.
Yeah, and Cell is definitely an intelligent guy and a really nice guy, but I'm just kind of frustrated with him that he's using that he didn't come up with totally brand new arguments tonight, because everything he's used that I saw has been shot down. And I don't understand why he's doing that, why he isn't doing better.
That's all he got. They're too deep in there. That I wrote in the chat. Actually, I wrote a few times because I was pasting it from something, and I didn't notice the other words I put in there. So I was editing to make it for what I wanted for this chat. Creationists are too deep in their beliefs that they can't actually learn how real life really works. Yep.
I think part of the problem is that they don't really have faith in their religion, and they desperately need to verify it with science.
You mean trust more?
Yeah, trust, that kind of faith. They want it to be verified in science, and now Cell and the whole Standing for Truth Brain Trust they're of the opinion now that science is in this new era where it's going to prove creationism true within years. That the new stuff that's coming out, and they really believe in this.
Yeah, I noticed. I was talking a couple of days ago on Smokey Snake's channel, and they kept on saying, it's John Maddock or Logical, Plausible, and Probable or something. His actual channel. He kept on saying that science or evolution's already being reversed or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what?
It's like, wow, newsflash. That should have been in the New York Times.
Yeah. Been Nobel Prizes and everything.
Right.
So,
you still for us, Simos?
Yeah.
What time is it where you are?
It's nearly 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, you're in England.
I am, yeah.
I flew out to England to meet some of my forum mates from Rational Skepticism a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, before the crisis.
Before the crisis, I haven't been anywhere for 4 months.
Yeah, it's been longer for me. Well, no, you're right. Yeah, 5 months for me.
Yeah,
I haven't been out of my room for 5 months.
Yeah, and apparently America is just taking Corona with a new vengeance. It's 40,000 a day in the last 4 days, I think.
Yeah,
or something.
Yep.
What?
Okay, don't leave my house.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. It's scary for me, but I was just going to have just about to have an operation before it all started, and they had to cancel the operation because of Corona. So
But they're all wearing masks.
very frustrating, and as a result, I can't meet anybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I popped a rib about maybe 5-6 months ago. I like tore the cartilage between my ribs, so if I'm in the wrong position, every time I breathe, my rib pops.
Ouch.
Yeah, and I wanted to get it fixed, but I don't know when I'm going to dare go to a hospital to get it fixed.
Yeah.
I have to like prop myself up in a certain way to go to sleep. Otherwise, every time I breathe, my rib slips and it goes pop, 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 and it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I should think so.
Don't poke a hole in the lungs.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what I mean? It's we do what we do, I suppose. Again, I try not to get too frustrated about it.
No, it's just a really strange new life. Like my ex-wife works at the local grocery store, the Cub Food, big grocery store called Cub Foods, and we're in Minneapolis, and about 10 miles away from where this whole Floyd thing blew up. And anyway, she's exposed every day to it, and me and my two sons are not exposed. So on the 4th of July, we want to have her over, but we can't allow her in the house because we're afraid, that because if I get this with my smoking history, I'm dead.
Yeah, I know what you mean there.
Yeah,
I know what you mean there.
I'm gonna die. Okay.
They say it could last a long time because it takes a long time to make a vaccine.
God, I wish they'd hurry up. Damn.
They have everywhere around. They're scrambling as fast as they can. You can see the sheer robot power that people are utilizing. And they had like giant rooms, almost like server rooms, full of these robots. They're doing these little test tubes and stuff. For it's confusing how to explain it. That's why I use videos. And other people I support, so because they do what's already easy explanations and stuff. So why not try to do it myself if I fumble and I don't have a good voice already, so can't be clear.
Yeah.
And no one knows me and sees my stuff. So anyways, really, it's like a small channel, like a few people.
How many subscribers do you have?
Let's see. Where does it say? It doesn't say for some reason on here.
Yeah, it's hard to find. I have like 49, I think, or something today.
Yeah, I don't have much more.
This is my secondary channel, actually. It took me a long time to actually do something.
Yeah, it took me a long time to get started because I'm trying to work on quality video, and it's hard. And so I just put out crap, and I just decided to start talking every morning. I do like a weather report, and it's just really raw. But I try to go over what's standing for truth and John Maddox is doing and shit like that. But God, I had to do something, so I just started throwing videos up.
Yeah,
it takes somebody. It's going to take, I don't know, 3 years, I think, before I get any kind of a following. I would like to get a following so that I could possibly get some, so I could possibly think about retiring and doing just this full time. I'm a contract programmer or computer consultant.
I wouldn't rely on it. Let's put it that way. You got to be. It's a hard work. It's hard work.
Yeah, it is.
Pay. I've seen a lot of people try and fail.
Yeah, but I had a friend that just hit T-jump. He just hit it out of the park, and he's living on it. So
yeah, but that's he's lucky. I know T-jumper. I've spoken to T-jump a few times, and he's lucky because he did modern day debate, and James, the guy on that, puts so much work into getting the debates together.
Right.
And he does them so regularly that people start relying on them. I don't always watch them. It depends what the topic is, but you
get your money for doing it consistently.
So I know it's weird, but I certainly and T-Jump's a very smart guy, isn't he? I mean, let's face it, he's a young man with a maybe his language isn't
he can live on a lot less than I.
But he certainly puts the time in, and I like Tom. I do, even though I disagree with some of his views. But I think I like him a lot.
Yeah, I disagree with some of his philosophy as well, but we get along well. So
it's a little too stiff a lot of times when he does talk, and he talks too like direct. I mean, we're saying it too hard for somebody to understand, but denies. And so that like even the same godless girl, like she was like, or she's already like that normally, but she goes all like yelling and stuff.
Like, yeah, but that's
he wasn't saying that. She was saying that. She was saying something else. I can't remember.
That's just godless girl. I mean, she used to be worse, believe it or not.
She used to be worse?
Yeah. I've known her for probably 5 years, something like that, maybe longer.
I sometimes doubt that she's an atheist.
She's definitely an atheist. That's 100%. 100% sure. Basically, there was a group of guys that came over that were all into philosophy, a lot of philosophy. And they came over to the platform following a guy called Darth Dawkins.
Yeah.
Basically they were his nemesis, as it were. And they taught the community quite a lot of philosophy, really, or at least how to use philosophy in a more offensive manner.
Yeah.
And she started seeing one of these guys, a really nice guy. Well, I say really nice guy. A guy I liked, anyway. And she learned a lot from him and then calmed down quite a lot. Even though she's still quite out there, but she has problems of her own. You know what I mean?
This is her calm, eh? Wow.
Yeah. Before she used to be really wild.
Yeah.
And would just attack people like that for no fucking reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I don't blame Tom Jump for interacting with her and just
Yelling.
triggering her like that, you know.
Yeah.
It's quite entertaining in some ways. But yeah, you know, they're a strange group because they came over following Darth Dawkins. And Darth is like one of the worst presuppositionalists you're going to find on YouTube.
Yeah, he's a bully presuppositionist.
Yeah, again, he's changed a lot as well. I mean,
he used to be worse.
No, he used to be better.
Oh, okay.
Well, I've had maybe 5 or so debates with him, and I managed to get him to rage quit most of the time.
Yeah, good.
You could never do that to him now. He'd never rage quit now. He would kick you out of a room sooner than leave.
I love the way Shannon Q handled him.
Oh yeah, that was
excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, she's grown on me hugely. I didn't like her at first, but the more I listen to her, the more I go, you know, you're all right. You're a good egg.
Yeah. She's all
but,
right.
Yeah, you know, there you go. It's amazing, isn't it? This community's so big and yet so small. Everybody knows everybody, or at least you know somebody that I know. I mean, again, I've been around a lot of years, yeah, you know, there's always going to be somebody at the base of it. I get the feeling you have as well. So,
yeah, I just got into the YouTube thing probably a couple of years ago, and then I went out and met Tom for coffee because we live in the same city, and then we went down to Austin to the Atheist Bat Cruise. Yeah, and he met Murphy and Dillahunty down there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I've been down there, huh?
Yeah, I know people that know Dillahunty as well, and Ra. I've met Aaron Ra in a couple of hangouts and stuff. I know his wife a little bit. You know.
I met him on the year before at the Bat Cruise, and I don't think I had to introduce myself 4 times because he was kind of smashed. and then he told me a story, and I can't repeat it live, but anyway, he told me a story. And then the next day I met him again, and we were sitting outside the Hilton after the Bat Cruise, and he was telling me these, you know, we were exchanging stories about our youth. And then the next day I brought that up, and he says, "How do you know that?" And I said, "You told me last night. If you weren't blackout drunk, he would have remembered the story that I told him, and he could have used it on me, but he didn't remember it." So.
Yeah.
But God, he was just a really wonderful guy. Yeah. I mean, he was not as brash as people find him online at all. He's just a big bear, you know. He's really cool.
Yeah.
I like him.
That's how I found him as well. And I mean, I only, you know, used to come into a girl called Nadia Yvette Chambers hangouts, and that's just way back, you know. And again, he was always so nice about everything, you know what I mean, and not this fideist. But you got the impression that he was quite mean, you know. But no, not at all.
Yeah.
His wife is lovely as well, I've got to say. Really, really nice person. But there you go. You know, I think I spend more time on Discord now anyway. So.
Yeah. So what's next?
Okay, I'm going to go and do some stuff, get my breakfast together and get a cup of tea. So
yeah, I'm about ready to burn out on you too.
Yeah. It's 1 o'clock here.
Yeah, so maybe we could pick it up at another time, or watch the debate tomorrow. We'll talk about it. But I want to ask you, Topdawg, how the hell do you do this dog thing that you're doing, or are you really a dog?
I do have a costume that looks different than this in real life. I had that first, but then I found this. I think
you're gonna have to tell me how you do that sometime. We'll do a Zoom hangout. It's
got face rig, or it's called face rig, that comes from Steam.
Really?
Snap. It cost a few dollars, I think.
I wouldn't mind that. I was gonna animate. Erica drew that icon for me. my "Oh really" thing.
There
So.
it is.
Oh,
Big.
cool. That's really cool. I didn't know she did art as well.
Yeah, well, she does it for Patreons if you're above, I think, $20 a month or something like that. So she hung out with me a few times, and that's how she sees me. So
Yeah. Okay, I'd sent her a message because I live near where she used to go to college in England.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, literally,
Cool.
I'm just up the road from the college.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, all this time, and if I'd known you were in England, we would have met up. And I debated G-Man many years ago, like 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
Known of G-Man, I blocked him, like just to put it out there. I did block him like 5 years ago.
I actually blocked him. I blocked him out of my mind.
Yeah. I try not to think about him anymore. Let's put it that way. Although a few of my friends are just obsessed with him. Well, I
And
wouldn't
they'll
say
think you're
obsessed,
racist too, because yeah.
But he was always fun, I have to say. He was a character, so there you go. But yeah. So I'm like, and I found Erica through that, and she's getting real smart. I really like her stuff. So.
Yeah, she does really good work.
Yeah.
She has a really good channel. She learned how to use OBS Studios, and she does it well.
That's what I'm doing right now.
I've
been practicing for a while, and I finally got from the last debate. I added a new driver for audio thing, so I can actually show you what my setup is.
Cool.
So you're going through OBS and StreamYard at the same time?
I'm running like 10 different programs. Yeah.
We got to talk. Do you have a Mac or Windows?
PC, Windows. Yeah.
Windows. I got a Mac. But yeah, we got to. Both of you guys send me an email. It's just speeders. I'll put it in here.
Yeah, I think I just did actually. So if you check your emails, you should see my thing. I'm under a different title. I don't want to say it live, but you'll see it. I've put my real name in there.
Okay, but Topdawg, you send me an email too so that we can talk. We'll do a Zoom hangout. Maybe you can help me out with some things.
Yeah, I'm gonna show the
yeah, cool.
My setup.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
This is the voice meter potato, and you have multiple drivers you have to install before this. You get it from the site. You go just VB audio cable.
VB audio cable?
Yeah, VBaudio.com cable.
Okay.
Flash cable and stuff. Can you see that tiny? Probably not.
Yeah.
It'll pop up the first thing probably.
Okay, so you've got an equalizer and everything. So.
Okay.
Yep. So this is the site where you get the free one, the driver. It gives you only one cable, but if you donate, like, see where is it? AB, there it is. Yeah, you can hit click on that for Windows, or they have the Mac version too. You can actually make it the cheapest you want it. Oh, is that different from what I had last time? Did the price changed? I don't know. Maybe because I donated already. Or it's the inflation thing, maybe. I don't know.
It's like a one-time donation or a monthly?
I don't know why it found it for me, but it's their default, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And then you can get the two cables, and you can get 3 all in together. If one's free, then they give you the two. You have to run them as administrator. Look it up on YouTube how they install it themselves. Okay. I mean, not them, but people.
Yeah.
The the potato, because there's so many things. It does better than the banana one. Meter it's a short, easier version. It makes it small, but then banana is the bigger one, gives you more options and stuff. And then potato is the big one that I use. I've only done it in the last couple of days. Been testing it out. Finally getting to work. I have 3 computers to do it on too. Doing all the settings. It's a lot simpler, but it's like my mind overload so many times trying to figure out all the different ways the cables go.
Oh, don't even start me. I'm a musician. And I thought I'd left all this behind. It's easier in real life when you can plug something in for real. You know what I mean? You go, yeah, it's definitely there. Anyway, look, I've got to get off. So thank you. It's really great to meet you, Topdawg. If you get any other hangs or whatever, just send me something and we'll go from there.
Okay. Later.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Really nice to meet you both. Take care now.
Yep. Take care. You're out of here like the speed of sound, right?
Anyway, so send me an email, and do you have time this weekend to do like a Zoom hangout and talk about some production stuff?
I think I'll be busy Thursday night
course.
and Friday because I'll be at the zoo. But whenever I get home, I guess I could, if I don't have things to do, I'm all free. This week. I'm on vacation, but I have a friend that wanted to go to the zoo. So he was going to hang out and do a bonfire, or I'm going to set up a party or whatever.
Yeah, we're doing something for the 4th, but I'm not sure what. So, send me an email. We'll get together. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to leave. Have a good night.
Yep. You too.
Bye.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of our broadcast. It's getting too late. Yep. See. Well, bye everybody. Hope you had fun learning real life stuff somewhat and seeing other people what they do or what their experiences are. Yep. Bye.